there's just life in this physical form, and there's life beyond this physical form. And what do you want to experience here? You want to experience more love, then we spread more love and we share more love and we embody more love. Do you want to see more kindness in the world? Then we embody that within ourselves. Do you want to see less judgment? Then we stop judging ourselves and others. It's all here. It all starts here. And I hope that these conversations from all different kinds of people and all different walks of life and different experiences will touch others somewhere within themselves to start making a shift, to lead a happier, more peaceful life, even amidst the contrast, even no matter what's going on in your life. Welcome to our special edition of Sunday Communion Podcast with Lee Papa, where I interview me. I hope you find it enjoyable. So here we go. First question. What inspired you to create the Sunday Communion Podcast? And what does the name signify for you personally and spiritually? The Sunday Communion Podcast came about actually with a spark quite a few years ago. And I did attempt to do a podcast previously during the pandemic or right around there. And my my learning curve was steep, and so it took an exorbitant amount of time for me to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And I think really it just wasn't the right time. So sometimes we have to honor that and move on. This seemed to be the right time and the right way I wanted to do the podcast. So what do I mean by that? I wanted to integrate all the areas of my life that really light me up. My work face, if you will, is all about mindfulness training, and I work in the meetings and events industry, and I help people with stress relief, and I do private coaching, and that can have many different pathways or many different ways that we get to the end result, which is optimal well-being, mind, body, spirit. But there was an aspect of myself that no one really knew about, which was my spiritual side. Or maybe people that got close to me would then understand or see that part of me. And I had a near-death experience in 2008, and I wrote a book about it in 2014. And this year, 2024, I knew that I needed to revisit that book because my spiritual development and the work that I had done to heal my emotional and mental and physical self had a lot more wisdom and knowledge attached to it. And my spiritual self was much more mature. So I decided to revisit that book. And as the universe, creator, God, source, the divine will tend to do, opportunity would come knocking. And a good friend of mine started her own publishing company. And so we discussed about revisiting the book and making it a 10-year anniversary second edition of Temple of All Knowing. And her information, Adriana's, will be in the description box of this, because anyone who is interested in writing a book, I highly encourage you to go this path with her. And so we did it, and we did it in record timing. And that journey with revisiting that book from 10 years ago and honoring myself in the text, the way that it was written about my experience leading up to the near-death experience and post-near-death experience, which is a very private, but not so private, wrote a book about it, journey that I felt so just urged to share originally and again, that I decided to keep the voice of that person, me, 10 years ago, or 10 plus years ago when I wrote it, but definitely corrected the writing. I'm a much better writer now. And then I added some beginning information and reflection as well as the conclusion and the reflection to really bring it up to date. And so that sparked something else inside me, stepping into my full self, which I teach about the integration. So, not seeking balance in your life, but learning to integrate all areas of your life for optimal well being. And so, I really felt like I needed to walk my walk in this and show up as my authentic self. Not that I wasn't before, but really just, kind of coming out of the psychic closet, as we joked about in previous podcasts, that there are areas of myself that I needed to kind of step into the truth about. And so I did. Launched that book in April, did the dogs barking, virtual living. So I launched that book in April 2024 and then recorded the audiobook and launched that in July of 2024. Sandwiched in between there, I also did an audiobook for a good friend of mine who is a prolific writer, Joan Peck, J.S. Peck, and one of her many, many, many special books, A Santa Baby, but I did that. So anyway, I digress. But part of that is really about there are many aspects of all of us that don't end up coming out to play, right? We see so many people in our work or professional environment, but they don't know that we're into sports, or they don't know that we have a really spiritual, deep longing to know more. So the podcast really came about so that we could have these conversations about what do you do for a living, but also who you are as a whole person, an integration of that. And Sunday communion just felt natural because I wanted to do it on Sunday. I wanted to just have conversations with friends. Communion was kind of a play on my upbringing as a Catholic, but also just communion as a way of saying that we're all in community and we're all having these conversations and we're showing up for each other mindfully, which is in non-judgment, and just honoring each other's paths and dipping into our spirituality. And what does that mean for you? And do you pray? And what does the afterlife look like for you? And what are your beliefs? And do those beliefs change? So these are the types of conversations that were really important to me whenever I have conversations with friends. What are the obstacles that you've overcome? How did you overcome them? Are there new obstacles? What lights you up? What sparks that beautiful light within you? And so then came Sunday Communion podcast. And that's a very long answer to that question, but I hope I got that point across. Thank you so much for listening. And let's move on to question 2. Your podcast bridges spirituality, health, and leadership. How do you decide which guests and topics best align with this vision? So for me, it was just about honoring the friends part of Sunday Communion podcast with friends. And so I reached out to many of my friends and they lovingly accepted. And then we just started digging into how it was going to flow. It's very much an organic conversation. I may prep a little bit ahead of time. I certainly have a plethora, love that word, plethora of maybe 100 different questions. But in the beginning, that's how I kind of organized myself. But it's really evolved to just setting the intention and allowing the questions to just come through and allowing the conversation to just naturally go where it's going to go. And as I'm continuing to do these interviews, that's exactly what's happening. And some really juicy gems are coming out of these conversations of just being our authentic selves with each other. I love that. The other part of that is how do I choose? Some of them the episodes are just evolving from people that I'm meeting or a recommendation from someone that I've interviewed. And then I get to have new friends and have conversations that way. And I'm very open to allowing the universe, spirit, creator, source to just guide people to me and allow the process to be just very fluid and practice the mindfulness aspect of that, which is not really forcing, but allowing the perfect guest for the perfect time. So I chose a day to do this recording when there's a lot of activity outside. So the dogs are just having a field day with that. Anyway, we move on. Question 3. You've often mentioned your near-death experience as a pivotal moment. How has that shaped your approach to hosting the themes explored on this podcast? And how has that impacted the work that you do at a corporate level and in the meetings and events industry? Well, the near-death experience is not only just a pivotal time and experience of my life, it is very much the basis and the foundation of who I am as a human. First, a spiritual being having a physical experience, understanding the wisdom and knowledge that comes from all experiences, most importantly, the contrast, the stuff we don't like. And that is how I navigate everything. So having it integrated into the Sunday Communion podcast is really just about the spiritual discussions that we have and learning the wisdom and the knowledge that all my guests have come to know through their own experiences. And for me, with the journey of not only having the experience, the near-death experience, writing the book about it, and knowing that everything is an opportunity for us to learn about ourselves and learn about each other and learn about our experience here on the planet. So it's very much a part of everything I do, everything I am. Question number 4. In what ways do you incorporate mindfulness and meditation practices into the structure of your podcast? Can listeners expect guided exercises or reflective moments? So because I do mindfulness training and meditation training in the corporate environment, in the meetings and events environment, and for individuals, you would think that maybe I might do that in the podcast. But at this point, I'm not. This is more about communion, community, conversation around these topics than the actual exercises. There are certainly opportunities to get this information, whereas I have meditations on my website, leapapa.com. I have a free download. How to access that is you just go to my website and you'll see free downloadable book, The Roadmap to Living Mindfully, Understanding Self-Love, Self-Care, and Self-Mastery. Highly recommend for everyone to download that book. And, I have a book on Amazon, Mindfulness for Beginners. I have programs and coaching, and I'll come out with more content regarding mindfulness and meditation. You can find me on Insight Timer, which is an app. It's, I believe, the largest meditation app. You can get free meditations there. So there are places and ways to get that kind of content. And you never know what's going to happen. You can on this YouTube channel, there are shorts that are meditative and reflective. But we'll see how it goes. And if you have any desire for more of that, please leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know what kind of content you're looking for, because I'm a content creator. I love it. And the more eyeballs that I can get on the content, the happier I am. And that means that it's going to where it needs to be. So thank you. Thank you for weighing in and supporting the work and your own health and well-being by engaging. As a storyteller, how do you balance sharing your personal experiences with creating space for guest narratives? Ooh, that's a good one. And it's funny, when I read that question based on the content that I fed into ChatGPT, I loved it because it came back with saying you're a storyteller. And I am. I love telling stories, but not kind of in the fictional way, but I love giving people examples of situations that they can then kind of lean into or see themselves in. And one of the highest compliments I got about my book, Temple of All Knowing, which is not a fiction book, but she said that it read like a fiction book because it was about a story about this woman. And I loved that. And I do enjoy creative writing. Well, I think that it's just being conscious because this isn't just a one-way interview. It is Sunday communion. It is an ebb and flow. It is a conversation. And so there has to be room for both in that type of environment. So when you are having dinner, let's say it was Thanksgiving dinner, we leave room for your story. How do I get to know you if you are new, or what's happened in your life if I haven't seen you for a while? And then they want to know the same. So this particular podcast is really about the conversation, is about being conscious and mindful, right? Mindful of not taking up all the space, but also sharing and then asking the questions, which I really do enjoy. What role does spirituality play in fostering leadership and wellness, especially in the high pressure industries of meetings, events, and hospitality? I think it can play and should play. And I'm not really crazy about that word should, but when one in leadership has leaned in to their spirituality, has leaned into the integration of their whole life, not keeping something off to the side, meaning their spirituality, but integrating that into their leadership style, it opens up a huge opportunity for others to lean in as well. Because when we segment ourselves, when we are not showing up as our whole integrative self, there are parts of us that are atrophying. And in that atrophy, there is decay. And that decay can show up in many different ways, and it can show up in your health and well-being. Most certainly will eventually. But leadership, there are many ways to step into leadership. But when you are stepping in as your authentic self, there is no better leader than one who has fully integrated and is authentic in the way that they step into their role, mind, body, spirit, wellness. And that is why we are really, as not only in the meetings and events industry, but in corporate America and beyond, are really understanding the value of health and well-being, mental health, emotional health, physical health, as the first stop, not as a nice to have, but as a mandatory take care of yourself first, and then that will expand into your family, your friends, your community, your company. Everyone that is in leadership wants a healthy, optimal company. It affects your bottom line in many, many ways. I believe it is the optimal way to lead. My keynote when I first started stepping into a leadership role in mindfulness, I moved away from the wellness center that I created in 2009, and great, amazing journey of this wellness center, and so many beautiful souls involved in the expansion of that. Ended up being 6,000 square feet in Las Vegas, Nevada. But when I moved into the meetings and events industry, I did so with the platform of my keynote, How to Live and Lead Mindfully. Mindfulness at its simplest form is non-judgment, but it's a little different. It's awareness first, awareness of your thoughts and your actions and the world around you in non-judgment. Now that takes practice. And who do we judge the most? Of course, we judge ourselves the most. Everybody 100% gets that. So when we've done the inner work on ourselves, when we have stopped judging ourselves, but used every obstacle and every hiccup in our lives, every contrast to gain wisdom and knowledge from it and to grow from it and to heal from it, then let me tell you, a healed leader is an exceptional leader. We need to be more aligned with this kind of leadership, that it is health and well-being first. Because when you do that, everything else aligns and lines up and is healthy. You have better relationships. You have less triggers. You are more vibrant and thriving. And who doesn't want that for themselves, their employees, and their company? Hope that answered that. I could go on and on about that topic. Many of your guests have overcome adversity or embarked on profound personal transformations. How do you guide those discussions to be both authentic and uplifting for listeners? Well, I think showing up with this platform where they know ahead of time we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles. Because who doesn't have obstacles in their lives? And if people say I don't have obstacles, I think there hasn't been a really true reflection on their or an observation of their life, because that's what life is. We overcome obstacles. We are provided contrast so that we can navigate through the contrast. Whether it's just how you deal with traffic or a relationship issue or family trauma or financial issues, we all, at some point in our life, have moved through or have been presented with contrast. So my friends show up and know that we're going to have those conversations. They know that by sharing authentically, that they are going to reach people that are going through maybe the same thing that they're going through, or something that they say is going to touch someone's life for the better. Because the people that are on this podcast want a better life. They want a better life for themselves, for their family, for their friends, for their community, for their country, for their world. We all want to be showing up to be in service for others. And this little podcast maybe helps in a small way, and hopefully one day in a big way. And so there is never a question of whether it's going to be an authentic conversation, because that's who is going to be showing up here. It's going to be an authentic alignment. Otherwise, they're not going to come. What are some of the biggest takeaways you hope listeners gain from tuning into Sunday Communion Podcast? Well, I think I kind of answered that question with the last question, which is the takeaway is I hope people see themselves in these conversations, and that they maybe stop compartmentalizing their spiritual self. Because as a near-death experiencer, I know that we are not our physical bodies. We are spirit having physical experiences, and that there is no death. There's just life. Life in this physical form, and there's life beyond this physical form. And what do you want to experience here? You want to experience more love, then we spread more love, and we share more love, and we embody more love. Do you want to see more kindness in the world? Then we embody that within ourselves. Do you want to see less judgment? Then we stop judging ourselves and others. It's all here. It all starts here. And I hope that these conversations from all different kinds of people in all different walks of life and different experiences will touch others somewhere within themselves to start making a shift, to lead a happier, more peaceful life, even amidst the contrast, even no matter what's going on in your life, that you find the hope, you find the connection with Source, God, Creator, the Divine, whatever name you want to give, that you find the comfort and the hope and the trust that things are going to not only get better, but there is a life out there with limitless possibilities, and that we can create something extraordinary together. You describe your spirituality as a practical tool for daily life. Can you share an example of how you've applied this philosophy in your own life recently? spirituality for me is just knowing that we are spirit having physical experience. So spirituality is really just navigating life from that knowing. Navigating life from a constant connection to that which is greater than me. Again, you can name it whatever you want. I've used different terms throughout my life: creator, God, source, the divine, universe, spirit. Um, you can name, you know, Jehovah, whatever name you use, Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, and navigating your life from that space. I usually ask my guests, do you pray? Because I'm very curious about that. Because when I was younger, I had conversations. Then I moved into more ritualistic, I guess, religious prayer. Then I bounced back to conversations. And that is really where I've led my life, my prayer life, mostly, sometimes more formal, but mostly just conversations with my creator. And so that is really the basis of having a spiritual life for me, and seeing God in everyone. Now, is that easy? Absolutely not. It is not easy. But as we practice, we get better at it, like anything. Meditation, when I first started meditating, that was a joke. But now I can drop into meditation anytime. I don't need music. I don't need a guided meditation. I don't need it to be quiet, which is, in the beginning, I needed it to be absolutely quiet. But really, that's what I mean by spirituality. And so the practical tools of that is knowing that Creator, God, Source, is always vying for my highest and best, no matter what it looks like in the manifested physical form. I could have all kinds of contrast around me. It could be a relationship issue, it could be financial issue, but no matter what my bank account says, and no matter what the crickets of this person not texting me or calling me back in a relationship or something like that, I know that it's all being navigated because Creator has my highest and best uh, in place. And so it's like a universal chess game. I picture it as this universal chess game, and all the pieces are being moved around the board. It may look like, and I don't play chess, but it may look like I'm going to lose. But then all of a sudden I see an opening, and it was strategically played. All these pieces had to move off the board so that I could get in and, checkmate. But that is really the biggest practical for me, is knowing, and I know it with all my heart, no matter what the physical is, I know that Creator is always guiding me to my highest and best. And as long as I continue to believe that, it does evolve and work out. Looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the podcast? Are there any dream guests or topics you're particularly excited to explore? The thing is, no, I have no plan or aspiration for it except for it to grow and grow and grow, and that people share it and they comment and they engage with it, and that it evolves to exactly what the viewership, you, want it to be. So I am unique and different from any other podcaster. And so whatever this is going to evolve to be, I know I don't need to control it, that I keep showing up for it, and I trust it, and I just want the best stories, the best guests who will authentically share, that will touch your life, that will bring you some hope, will bring you some wisdom, some spark of inspiration, will touch you in some way positively. And that's my aspiration. That's my goal, is that you might have more courage to speak your truth about your spiritual life. You may, again, have the courage to integrate your whole self into your life and be your authentic self. And that maybe you'll get some inspiration or some hope that whatever circumstances that you are dealing with that are less than optimal, that you're going to navigate through it and you're going to be a champion of it. And it's going to be amazing. And no matter what stage of life that you are in, it is never too late. It is never too late to grow and to expand and to become your authentic self and to speak your truth. It's not too late. You've expanded into corporate training, helping organizations navigate stress and transformation. How does this work align with the theme of mindfulness from the meetings and events industry and your personal coaching and spirituality explored on your podcast? Well, not so recent, but I've done corporate work and, well, through the meetings and events industry as well. So I do corporate training for people that are wanting to bring wellness and well being into the workforce. I also support companies that are going through transition, laying off people, and are looking for a way to make that a transition with more ease and grace to support those who are being laid off deal with this change, this big change, with less fear, with more proactive, mindful approaches. And I love the work. It is something that has been evolving and it's exciting to me because, again, I like to create and I like to evolve and I like to go where I'm needed. And it seems like that is really the space that I am needed at this time. And supporting transitions and mind shifts in the corporate environment is something that really lights me up, and I enjoy it, and I know that we're making a big difference in that environment. It aligns very much because mindfulness again equals awareness and non-judgment, and it is really the foundation of the corporate work that I do is mindfulness. There is also the meditation aspect of it because it's mind, body, spirit. It's the integration of our whole selves. So again, my definition of spirituality is really honoring the spirit aspect of us, that inner voice, that inner knowing, and utilizing that to navigate the external experience. And so it is very much the foundation of the work that I do, even in the corporate environment and in the meetings and events industry, helping people connect. The tagline that I've used for many, many years is stress is not a badge of honor, nor is it a requirement to get the job done. We have navigated from a place of stress for many, many, many years, and I teach how to navigate from a more optimal space, an empowerment space, steeped in mindfulness, meditation, and truly spirituality, because again, spirituality being that inner space that is residing within the exterior, the physical form. In times of organizational upheaval, like layoffs or acquisitions, how do you guide leaders and employees to embrace mindfulness as a tool for resilience and adaptability? Well, I think I just answered that question. So we use the basic foundation of mindfulness. And in that, we give people, we empower them. We empower them to take responsibility for navigating from the space of their inner knowing. So, never a victim, never something happened to them. This is all navigating from a place of this situation, this contrast happened. How am I going to move through the contrast? How is it for the highest and best of me? And I do that by taking full responsibility. Oh, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to heal the wounds, the emotional wounds from the past. And once I can do that, I am full. I am not coming from a place of lack. I'm not coming from a place of needing to fill something. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to that Jerry Maguire movie where Tom Cruise said, "You complete me." No, we don't want anything to complete us. We want to be full and navigate from a place of empowerment no matter what the change is. And we want to be able to shift and change and learn from each experience. So if this situation has happened, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And we're going to get to the place of why it happened for you and how you can take that and be an empowerment from it and go to limitless possibilities. What do you want to create next? Let's create something extraordinary next. So this is just a small tidbit of the larger scale, and it really depends on the situation of the company, how we navigate that space. So that ends our question and answer for this special episode of the interview with me. And actually, I said in the beginning that it came about because I really wanted to do an intro, but it just never happened. And I'm more comfortable with an interview situation. But I had a cancellation of a podcast, and so during, of course, the Thanksgiving time, uh, I thought, okay, the universe is telling me that it's time to do this intro podcast. And this is kind of what we're talking about as far as using any kind of contrast or obstacle for the highest and best. Seeing what is opening up for us. What is it that we need to see? And so I want to thank you for spending this time with me. And I sure would love some comments. And if you have any recommendations, if you would share this podcast with your friends, your family, anyone that maybe would benefit from not only the experiences of overcoming obstacles, but also to get to know some really cool people. I am so blessed to know some really amazing souls out there who are doing extraordinary work within their own industries. And if that resonates with you, I sure would appreciate the share, the comment, the like, and hit that notification bell after you subscribe so that we can build on this podcast and the channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you could ever imagine, each and every one of you. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next podcast of Sunday Communion.